Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 17, verses 24 through 27. When they reached Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the temple tax?" He said, Yes, he does. And when he came home, Jesus spoke of it first, asking, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tribute? From their children or from others?" When Peter said, "From others," Jesus said to him, "Then the children are free. However, so that we do not give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook. Take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a coin. Take that and give it to them for you and for me." The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Here we go again with this tax thing. Twice I have pulled text out of a cup, and twice I have stood before you, and twice I have dealt with taxes, our tax collectors. Man, am I lucky or what? Just blessed, I guess. On a serious note, our text this morning is challenging. It comes to us as we face tides of unspeakable violence, racial tension, and a polarized and divisive political environment crashing against the sands of our lives, leaving us off balance and struggling for footing. We want to cry out to God. We want to cry out to those who govern. We want to take a stand. Indeed, we must take a stand because we have to stand for something. Now, before we dive into the text, I need to give you a little context. This temple tax. The temple tax involved a contribution by all Jewish males which went to fund daily sacrifices in the temple. The tax was based on Exodus 30, verses 12 through 16, where God instructed Moses to levy an atonement tax on everyone counted in the census as a ransom for their lives to be used for the service of the tent of meeting. The tax was now paid annually into the temple treasury. Those going to Jerusalem for Passover paid it in person. Those who did not, the rest, it was collected the month before Passover from all the Jews in Palestine and in the diaspora. In the context of our passage here this morning, however, the tax itself and the obligation to pay it annually appears to be a relatively recent and particularly Pharisaic institution. Indeed, other religious elements within society, like the Sadducees, disapproved of the tax altogether, while others, those of the Qumran community, on principle only felt obligated to pay it once in a lifetime. In the passage, upon reaching Capernaum, Peter is approached by the temple tax collectors. "Does your teacher not pay the temple tax?" Notice here that their question implies doubt. They don't assume compliance. They recognize Jesus as a teacher, a leader of a disciple group. Perhaps they are in fact just asking him if he'll simply pay the tax. But perhaps it is his attitude towards the tax that they're questioning. Maybe they're probing to see which side of the issue Jesus will come down on, knowing that whatever side that is, his disciples will likely follow suit. Does your teacher not pay the temple tax? How often, brothers and sisters, are we questioned in like manner? You can close your eyes and think and list the myriad of ways we are pecked at. Ask what our opinion is on this or that matter. Batman or Superman? Robes or no robes?
No robes.
Is healthcare a right or a privilege? Now we're getting somewhere. To kneel or not to kneel? That is the question. The list could go on and on. From the very trivial to the most vital, questions fly around us and nibble at us in the blizzard of a 24-hour news cycle, but underneath it all is perhaps a very simple inquiry. What should we take a stand for? Our rights as individuals and as a body of believers? And when should we surrender it? Moving back into the text, we find that upon being asked about paying the tax, Peter emphatically says, yes, he does. Now, the text itself really does not provide any clues to why Peter was so enthusiastic and answered this way. I mean, maybe it sprung from some knowledge he had from Jesus on this issue, or maybe he just assumed that Jesus would act like all good Jews do and pay the tax, and where the tax was concerned, honestly, we don't know. But what we do know is that before Peter raises the issue with Jesus, he is forestalled by Jesus, who raises it first with him. What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take toll or tribute? From their children or from others? Peter said, well, from others. And Jesus said to him, then the children are free. It's important to note, and I don't want you to miss, that the author of Matthew couches the teachings of Jesus here in very civil terms. He speaks from a civil frame of reference. Kings of the earth, taxes, tolls, tributes. He makes a political analogy. He argues that he and his followers are children or sons of the great king, and therefore cannot be taxed in his name as if they were foreigners or strangers. It's kind of shrewd. He doesn't explicitly challenge the interpretation of the law of Moses that the Pharisees hold, but rather attacks the very concept of religious taxation altogether. Technically speaking, Peter, we don't have to pay that stupid tax. And then, surprisingly, after providing Peter with the sound tax exemption, Jesus instructs Peter to pay the tax so that they might not give offense to anyone? Are you serious? Just pay it so we don't offend them? The Greek word here, to give offense to, it's the same word that's used earlier in Matthew 15:12 when it seems that Jesus had no real issue giving offense to anybody, especially the Pharisees and scribes, on issues related to things that supposedly defiled a person. So why all of a sudden this change of stance here? Why all of a sudden are we worried about giving offense to? Perhaps the difference rests in the fact that in this instance, the matter at hand, the payment of the temple tax, is just a matter of custom. Where compliance, when it's not necessary, it'll do no harm. To flout their freedom in this instance would serve no real purpose at all. Pay the tax so we don't. Look, there are times when we as a community of faith, as individuals, must and should take unpopular and countercultural stands on issues that will inevitably alienate us from others who don't share our point of view. Yet, perhaps we must also balance this with the realization that many of the issues and practices on which we might legitimately differ from conventional assumptions are just simply not worth fighting over, especially if that fight serves nothing more than to put up a stumbling block in the way of others. Beloved brothers and sisters, we must not allow pride to give offense on secondary issues. Love is our guiding principle. Relationships is our primary goal. Christian freedom entails obedience to these higher rules of love, which manifest itself in a primary concern for others and the unity of the community. Just as Christ gives his life for others, so also the community of faith, us, live our lives aware of our freedom, but so concerned with the welfare of others that we are more than willing to sacrifice that freedom for the sake of love.